Why does anyone think suicide's going through the roof since this lockdown started? And it's a war on the human psyche. And the only way that you can see through it is to stop looking at the world like that and take a step back and see what the effects are of what's happening and who benefits from those effects. They're seeking to drive humanity crazy. And you know, when you're in a state of trauma, I did years and years research into mind control. From the mid-90s to well into the 2000s, both sides of the Atlantic, I did a tremendous amount of research into mind control. I talked to a stream of people who've been in mind control projects and put under mind control. And what I saw individually in things like MK Ultra, the famous government military mind control project in America, which came to light in the 70s publicly, only part of it did though. What I saw in the mind control techniques on individuals, I'm seeing collectively on humanity now. Same thing. Just a very quick one. One of the things that, one of the forms of mind control, it's called trauma-based mind control. What you do is you traumatize people. They want to take kids, you know, ideally before the age of 6, and they put them through horrific trauma. They establish what makes the child, I mean, you know, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm just about to say, this is the mentality that was behind the lockdown and is behind what was happening now, the cult. They find out and establish what terrifies the child, and then they subject the child to it. They'll subject the child to watching an animal be sacrificed. They might, in the extreme cases, make the child watch a human be sacrificed. And what happens is that there's a mechanism in the mind which shuts away, basically puts behind an amnesic barrier horrific memories, so the conscious mind is not constantly reliving them. And they call these isolated fragments of minds, memories, alters, as in altered states. And I've mentioned it before. What they then do is they program these alters with different tasks, like Manchurian candidates, etc. And they have what they call a front alter, which is the personality that seems to be the person that people interact with. But in the background, in the subconscious, are these other alters, which are programmed with certain behavior traits. It might be an assassination, it could be lots of things, honey traps, anything. And they have a word, a phrase, some kind of code that's hypnotically put into the mind, that when the person hears it, or even sees it, it can be a symbol, the alter that relates to will become the front alter. And the front alter will go into the subconscious. Now this alter, which has a completely different perception of reality to the front alter, which seems to be the normal personality of the person, will then carry out its programmed task. And one of the massively common ways that this is used is for very famous people to have sex, and sometimes horrific sex, with girls and women under this mind control. Because what happens then is, after it's happened, they bring the front alter back and they put the alter that's experienced, like the sex abuse or whatever, into the subconscious mind. The front alter's back, it has not experienced the sexual attack or whatever the behavior is, therefore knows nothing about it. Where I'm going with this is, the word they use to activate the alters and the switch is trigger. Someone's been triggered. Now you look at the woke psychology. What are they saying all the time? I've been triggered. They're putting things in educational documents and what have you, called trigger warnings. That something you might not like is coming up. Trigger warning. That I'm even seeing in the collective war on the human psyche the language of mind control that they've been using for decades and decades. And so one of the expressions, and very relevant to today, of this mind control, what they call trauma-based mind control, is that when someone's traumatized, in a state of anxiety, in a state of fear, they become massively suggestible. This is why they use trauma as part of the mind programming. So what they're doing to humanity as a whole is producing reasons to fear, reasons for trauma, reasons for anxiety. And when they've manipulated people into those states, they then put the mind control suggestions in there of that change perception.
This is happening to all of us right now.
Right now. So, for instance, if you get someone, and a lot of people watching this will have seen this in their own experience in the last few months, if you get someone so traumatized about a deadly virus, they become absolutely open to hypnotic suggestion, because this cult is not really targeting the conscious mind overwhelmingly. It's targeting the subconscious mind, which then filters through to become conscious perception. They put the suggestions in and change people's psyche. And this has worked to such an extreme that cancer doctors and other people in the specialists of heart disease and what have you. I mean, I remember a line from a British cancer specialist when he's saying how the lives of so many people are going to be significantly shortened because of the lack of treatment and diagnosis during the lockdown. He said people are more frightened of COVID-19 than they are of cancer. Now, this is what happens when you get people into a traumatized state and then you put the suggestions in. You completely, you basically hypnotize them. What's happened is that so many people in the last few months have been put under a hypnotic spell. And indeed, people are put through a hypnotic spell their entire lives. You go through the education system and then into the world of, where the media is telling you everything that you should believe and everything that's real and what have you. It's a hypnotic spell that's being cast on the human race. And when people talk about people waking up, what does that mean? It means they wake up from the trance. They wake up from the spell. And so I meet so many people because of what I do who say, oh, I read your book, or I saw you do this, or whatever. And suddenly I just saw it. I just got it. And what do they say? I woke up. It's exactly what happens. When you can put out information that's putting a different angle on everything, what you're doing is breaking the spell. Because the spell is basically all that anyone's ever heard. Mainstream sources, they're all sources of the spell. And when people hear other sources of information and other ways of looking at the world, it breaks the spell. And people say, I woke up. Yeah, you woke up from the trance that you've basically been put in since the day you were born.
Is that what we're doing right now?
Yeah, well, I hope so. But what has happened in the last few weeks of this pandemic hoax has been the most potent, obvious, in-your-face example of a spell being cast on the human psyche, where billions of people put themselves under house arrest because someone, you are feeling sleepy, has told them to do so. No questioning, no research, no who benefits, just do it. And like I said earlier, the more people acquiesce to more and more ridiculous things, the more the spell gets deeper and deeper and deeper until it eventually, they don't even know how to think, never mind what to think. Why is it that so many people in the military, especially in the more, if you like, extreme elements of the military, why do they find it so hard to come back into human society? Because they've become so used to being told what to do that they don't know how to function when no one's telling them what to do anymore. And this is a phenomenon that we're seeing. But the great thing is that it's also had the effect of breaking the spell of vast numbers of people, because what's happened is so extreme and so obviously dramatically different to anything they've seen before, that it has had this effect of getting them to say, well, hold on a minute, what is going on? And that's the first stage of breaking the spell, asking the questions of, like, who benefits?
Yeah, but it's so powerful, David. I mean, I even caught myself over the past couple weeks saying, am I white privileged? No, I'm not. Of course I'm not. Maybe I am. No, I'm not. And so then I realized I had bought into their narrative. And I was like, wait a second. You know, now I've made a choice. Now I've identified this thing, and now I have to start questioning a narrative that has been dictated by someone else. I had to start thinking about all of my friends, and for the very first time, David, I started thinking, which of my friends are white and which ones are black? I never thought of that in my life before, but now I had to think, well, maybe should I call that person or not call that person? And then I was like, they got me. They got me into that agenda. You walk into the restaurant, what do you want? Red or white wine? Who said I wanted anything to drink? Who said I wanted your wine? This is the same thing we're seeing. Does Black Lives Matter or not? Well, which one is it? Because if it's a yes, you're one thing. If it's a no, that's that. And yet I'm buying into it. And I see what happened in London yesterday. And you've got, you know, Black Lives Matter protesting and the English Defence League protesting. And it just doesn't give me a lot of hope.
Well, there you go,
David.
There you go. What's that? Divide and rule.
I know.
Divide and rule. And you know, you've got the English Defence League, who are self-identifying with being British, English, whatever, and you've got the others that are coming from another direction, and they're, you know, giving it that, and yet you are a point of attention in the same consciousness that you are. You've just bought different perceptions. Why are you fighting each other? Because who benefits from you fighting each other? Those that want to divide and rule the target population. And you know, so many, you know, it's like there's nothing more manipulatable than genuineness that isn't streetwise. And I don't doubt that in many of the people, many of the people who are protesting and helping to create this division, that they genuinely feel that they're doing something that's right.